Hi, welcome to Menon Thoughts, where technology, life, and growth comes together with purpose. Choosing the right tech stack for your product or project isn't just about picking popular tools or the latest trending technologies. It is a strategic decision that every development team has to take that can make or break your success. This whole video is about how to choose the right tech stack for your product or project development. So I believe that building a software product is like building a beautiful house, which is a bungalow where you are going to make it and give it to the end customer to come and live in. And when we say people coming and living into a house, what makes a building a home is basically the way it is built, right? When it's being used by a family, making a building to be used as a corporate office. So when people come in, they should like to work in that particular environment. As the software developers who are making a software, we are actually trying to emulate a similar scenario for the people who are going to use the software. They should feel happy to use it. You must have seen this analogy in a lot of games, right? I mean, some games are very popular because they build it in that manner, right? Where people get indulged into that. Some of the games you would download, you will play probably for a day or two, and then you will stop playing it, right? Good example is World of Tanks. Let's say I use it, I play it a lot. You'll want to go back and play that game because that gives you that relaxation that you want, right? So any software that you're building, whether it is for a workflow organization, workflow automation of an organization, may it a hospital, may it be a manufacturing industry or wherever it is, or if you're making a public facing software, e-commerce platform, and you're making a software for them, then you would want to make sure that the people who are going to come in and use that platform are revisiting that platform and making that company successful. And that success that they would get is a satisfaction you as a development team will get towards the end of it. So that is what I believe. Same is the case if you look at Apple. The reason why people buy more and more Apple products, I believe, this is my belief, there will be a lot of bashing on that. Android lovers might come and bash, but is because of the experience that you get across, right? I mean, the experience that you get in a Mac world versus an iPad versus an iOS is so consistent that you like it. I mean, there are a lot of pitfalls in each of these products individually. So like MacBook individually might not be the best that is there. iPhone individually might not be the best product that is there. iPad individually might not be the best product that is there. Apple Watch individually might not be the best product that is there. But when they work in cohesive, it becomes a great product, right? How? Because they are all connected by that software at the back end, which is connecting them all, giving that experience, making sure the best hardware works in synchrony, right? Of course, Android has got its own better versions, like say Samsung Ultra definitely is a better phone than iPhone. That's what my personal opinion is. But because Samsung alone in its world, yeah, it has got some of its components like the Samsung Watch Ultra. They have got a laptop. They have got their tablets and everything. I totally agree. But they don't work, my opinion, personal opinion, right? They don't work in that cohesive environment like what Apple does. So again, I'm not trying to say Apple or Samsung is best or whatever it is. I'm just trying to point out saying that connectivity which this software platform creates, whatever tech stack Apple has used or built over a period of time, is definitely better than Samsung's tech stack in a lot of places. They are catching up. Samsung is catching up. Obviously, they will also catch up with what Apple is doing. For example, Apple's AI is not good as Samsung's AI. Samsung's AI is much better. They have made it right. Where Apple succeeds is on the other parts, which Samsung is still not up there yet, right? So that is basically the thing that I was talking about. So again, let's stop that particular discussion there. But the end thing that I wanted to just make sure is like people understand that what we build as a software has got a bigger implication for the end user. So as a software developer, our job is to build a good software and hand it over to our client. They might be using it for public facing or internal facing, whichever way it is. But our job doesn't end at just making the software and just leaving it. our job is giving them a complete experience. But the complete experience doesn't just mean all functionality. It covers everything. It covers scalability, performance, how fast we are delivering it, how we are maintaining it on a later date after we have delivered it, how scalability and performance works as the number of users increase, how the ecosystem works, and all that things. Right? We'll talk about that in this video based upon my experiences as usual for the last 29 years that I have been in the industry. We'll talk through that. So let's take a stab at this and then talk through how to select the right tech stack for your project or a product. So what is a tech stack? Let's start with that. A tech stack is a combination that I believe is of the programming language, frameworks, and tools that are used to build the software, right? Okay. So way back when I started my career, it was not this complicated. It was more like only two things. One, when you select the tech stack, what is the coding language? What is the storage? Where we are going to deploy? That's all, right? Because most of them were monolithic applications at that time, and they were deployed either on a WAN or a LAN. But now, since you have got so many combinations, the selection of a tech stack can be broadly divided into 5 segments: front end, back end, database, DevOps, testing. These are the 5 broad things that you look at when you are talking about the tech stack nowadays. So just to elaborate a bit, front end, where the visualization happens for the consumption of the software. It could be through web app, mobile app, a standalone app running on your devices like laptop and all. Again, they're called apps now. They're not called as applications apps, right? Which could be again for Windows, or it could be for Mac OS or Linux or whatever, right? A backend logic is where the backend is, which orchestrates the entire functionality, picking up the data from the front end, pushing it to the database, pulling data from other sources that are there, and getting the data across onto the UI. And the database, as it is, the database itself, it could be, now again, there are multiple ways of holding the data. Previously, it used to be a single way of holding the data. Now it is relational database, and you have got NoSQL database, and of course, file storage. These are the 3 different ways of handling it. Previous gens, we used to have only 2: storage, file storage, only 2. Now it is 3. Right? So previous gen we used to have storage. Within storage you had indexing, and then you had sequential readers. Now it has been broken into relational database, and it has been broken into NoSQL, which is basically a sequential document that are holding, right? Okay. Again, the database can be on the cloud. It could be on a private network, wherever, right? So that is a thing that you have to look at. DevOps, of course, there are hosting part where you're going to host it, Azure, DigitalOcean, AWS, stuff like that, right? And then the testing frameworks: unit testing, integration testing, manual testing. Manual testing is not, it's as a process, but automation testing. For this, again, you'll have to look at the tech stack that you're going to use, TDDs that you're going to write, test-driven development approach, what TDDs you want to write, test case, test scenarios, how you want to test it using different tools, Selenium, etc., etc. So each of these layers, when you are taking the tech stack, should complement the other. That is a key factor. The factor being the front end should be complementing the back end should be complementing the database, the deployment cycles using CI/CD has to complement with the development of the front end and the UI, testing has to complement the development cycle. So it is like a relay team working together towards the same goal. Hence the tech stack has to be working in that coordination. So this is what a tech stack is all about. A lot of tech stacks there, so I'm not going to go and talk about which is better or which is not, because each one has got its own pros and cons. Then if I go into each one of it, it will become a bigger video. So in this video, we will cover what factors to be considered before choosing the tech stack. So that is what we are going to talk through in this particular video. So let's talk about it in the next section. So according to me, factors to be considered before choosing the tech stack, there are 6 of them, which I keep in mind when I am choosing my tech stack. 1, the project type and the domain. Look at what type of project you're going to build up. A real-time project like a chat application, or is it a reporting dashboard, e-commerce, enterprise SaaS, PaaS as a platform, software as a platform. Because each one of these have got different goals, and each of these products, when you're type of products when you're developing, the goals will vary. Hence, you have to choose the tech stack very efficiently. So, for example, like if you're talking about a tech stack which is front end being Angular and the back end being Node.js, for an e-commerce application, it's a perfectly fine solution. Okay, right? But if it is a scalable e-commerce application, if it's a small e-commerce application which is a very small application with say 10,000 hits coming in every month, right? Don't have to worry about being scalable and all. But the moment you look at application like let's say an Amazon or whatever, you have to then think about things like, okay, how do I have multitasking? How do I have security? How do you have deployment which will run on let's say a Kubernetes cluster instead of being only a load balanced one at the back end instead of being just one server and all that stuff, right? So hence when you're talking about a bigger e-commerce application, you might want to go to Kubernetes, blah blah blah, all that stuff. But when you're talking about a small e-commerce application, you don't need to go and build a bulldozer to actually pick a pin, right? A small pin. You can do it with your hand, which is basically the easier way of doing it, right? So think of it in that terms. So this becomes a very critical part when you're choosing the tech stack. The experience of your team, if you are having an existing team, see if you can actually build your tech stack around the team's experience. If you have got predominantly Angular development team, why would you want to go and build the application on React? People might say, hey, React JS and React Native, you can give a mobile app. Hence, we are going with React. But Angular also, you can make a mobile app using a PWA, or you can actually use Ionic to build that. Same results, right? So you might want to look at that. If your team is already well versed with, say, Java, you should probably look at Java as your backend instead of going and looking for something like, let's say, a .NET Core or even Python at the backend. But having said that, if your requirement is basically saying that I need an AI with a strong, robust backend, then probably you can also split your tech stack in a manner where the AI part is handled by Python, your primary thing is handled by Java. So then you can focus on getting only a couple of guys for Python, but your core team can still continue with your product line. That's one way of looking at it. The third is basically any of these React or Java or even Angular. All of them have got a ecosystem where you have got libraries, support forums, tutorials, all that stuff. So you probably want to look at that as a factor when you are trying to build your product's tech stack, right? Because for example, React does have its own mechanism of building a UI where you can actually see if you can actually build an application with graphs and all those things. But Angular also has that, and some of the Angular's components are much advanced than React's. Not trying to push towards Angular, but what I'm saying is they already have, because Google has its own Bootstrap MD concept where you can build good graphs. And then there are third-party components which are available. Ready-made templates are available. Ready-made libraries are available. So you probably want to look at that also as a factor. Okay, right? The ecosystem also helps you in problem solving in the long run, right? I mean, where you can go and ask people if they have faced a similar problem. If yes, how do we solve it? How do we take it to the next step? And all that stuff that helps in the active ecosystem, if you may, right? So example, like if you're looking for answers, you might get answers easier for React rather than Angular in a Stack Overflow. So you probably want to weigh that also into your primary factor. Time to market, how fast you can build an MVP. Use the framework that can help you in taking the product out into MVP faster. Now, there is one thing that I wanted to suggest, because recently we are trying to build an application. So using AI, you can actually these days generate code very fast. So what I noticed is AI based code currently as of today for Angular, the AI code doesn't build it very fast because I think because Angular 20 has just come in, they're still not plugged in into all the AI stuff. But React.js, you can get an entire website out in 5 minutes using an AI bot if you are able to give the correct requirements to them. Proper prompts, proper functional requirements, you will get the entire application out in 5 minutes, right? And similarly, databases also, it can design and give it to you. I'm not tried with Node.js or Java on the AI bot. I will be. That will come up in our next series when we are actually picking up the AI video series. I might pick up these tools. But so time to market becomes a major factor. If AI is helping you build out this, churning out this code faster, then probably you can think of that to take it out in the market, because any product until it goes into the market is a waste of time, according to me, right? I mean, it has to be used. It might increase your knowledge, but from a company's bottom line, it is a waste of time, right? So you probably want to look at it from that angle too. The final part that I look at is maintaining and hiring, how fast we can find developers for this stack. Because, for example, like when we are trying to, again, in one of the projects that I'm working on, when we are trying to actually find people with AI specific experience on building models using Python, it is very difficult to find. One, it is difficult to find them. Two, it is very difficult to scale a person to that level. So those are factors that probably you want to look at, how niche that particular thing is. You will find a lot of example, you can find a lot of people with React JS and Node, but it is very difficult to find a person with a React and a .NET Core, or Angular with .NET Core, but you can find it with Angular and Node.js very easily. So you want to probably see how you want to look at on a long-term basis also. Right? There are a lot of features that are there. Another example, DevOps, you will find a lot of people with AWS and Azure, but very few with DigitalOcean and Oracle Cloud. So you might want to also consider that when you're taking a tech stack into account, saying that where the deployment might happen. AWS, Azure. Again, in AWS, you will find a lot of people who have worked on EC2, who have worked on simpler stuff compared to deploying it with EKS or ECS or say Amplify and stuff like that. So probably that also is a consideration when you're thinking about putting a tech stack. Like, I mean, people might get carried away and say that we will deploy it on EKS, but do you have the resources to maintain it on the long run? So you probably want to look at that also. Okay, right? So as I said, 6 pointers from my side: project type and domain, team experience, scalability, community and ecosystem, time to market, and maintenance of the product on the long run. If you keep these in mind, you will be able to choose the product pick properly, right? Okay. So beyond this, where do people primarily go wrong? According to me, one of the biggest mistake I see in picking tech is based on trends and not the fit. Like, I mean, people will just go and say, okay, let's try AI ML when simple automation can work, right? I mean, simple automation like a Bitbucket or a GitHub or whatever can work. We will say, no, I want to use the latest AI technology. Just for the sake of the trend, people try to bring in the AI into the picture, right? Even if you're bringing in AI, try to see how you want to bring it in, right? Not enforcing the AI into the system or pushing the AI into the system. That's where people do make some mistakes a lot of times, right? Just like, I mean, as an example, just because, let's say, Netflix uses React plus Node doesn't mean that it is your right internet tool. It could be something else. So you have to look at that. The right stack, according to me, is the one that solves your problem efficiently, not what is solving the problem of some other competitor of yours. So my real world advice over the years to you is use proven stacks unless your use case demands to innovate. Use microservices only. For example, your team is ready to understand microservices and handle microservices. Choose tools which solid documentation and regular updates as in proper updates coming in, doesn't break stuff and all. The tools should be important, otherwise it handicaps you. Avoid one person maintained framework, even if they're hyped. I mean, so what I mean by that is, let's say in your team one person is good at Python and you start your development with Python, for example, right? Python Flask as your API, and that day leaves the organization. Your entire team will be stuck unless he ramps them up by the time he leaves, right? So that is a risk that you play or you have to look at. Always take backups in your team who can take the tech forward if at all something goes wrong. Also, try to match the stack with your domain. I can give a few examples based upon what I have looked at in the last few years. Fintech, I would say priority should be on security and auditability. So your backend has to be very secure. Your deployments has to be in a way where it is unbreachable. Your DevOps, the hosting has to have firewalls. Your security has to have, your data has to be encrypted. You should have APIs which can have security tokens. It should have cross-domain restrictions, not having any major business logic on your front end, most of it being on your middle tier. So those are factors that you want to look at when you are in fintech. Tech stack has to be revolving around that. E-commerce, ideally, according to me, any e-commerce platform Focus on the speed, search, and it should be mobile first. So, for example, if you're trying to build an e-commerce application, the first priority should be mobile first. I should be able to run it from a mobile, right? So probably React is a better option, right? Correct. Search has to be good. So you should probably look at when you're deploying it, most of my data will be in NoSQL, but it will also use Elasticsearch from AWS. Focus on speed. You can actually look at things like lazy load, your API is being paginated, your API is having multi-threading, so probably Node might not be the right answer. But again, if it's a small application, Node might be the right answer. So that's on the e-commerce side. If it is a SaaS, 100% give priority to your API design. So Node will not work if it's a SaaS. That's my take on that, right? Again, an opinion. Your priority should be on building robust APIs which can do two-way communication, can communicate with the front end, also communicate with third-party apps, right? So those should be built on Java or .NET Core when you're building it in SaaS. User onboarding has to be very, very quick, very, very simple, very, very fast. So that in those scenarios, probably Angular is a good option because their ready-made components that are available. You can just use a lot of free components that are available on Angular. Just directly pick it up and then start working with that. Your DevOps has to be so strong that you can actually have usage analytics when it's SaaS. Things like Prometheus Grafana on a deployment server. Things like having CloudWatch, Downtime Watch. All that stuff is very important when it comes to SaaS. Not that it is not important on e-commerce sites, right? But e-commerce sites, it is okay. Even if I don't put a Prometheus Grafana and I put just a CloudWatch, it is okay, right? I don't have to overkill it. But when it is SaaS, a software as a service, you probably want to look at all those things. That's all I had in this video for you all. As I said in the beginning, we are starting off with a couple of video series. People who have not subscribed to the channel, do subscribe, and you can go and look at the playlist. The last video was on Agile. Video series was on Agile. We had 4 different videos that we had made on that. It's a playlist available on the channel homepage, and we are starting a couple of series which I have already put a short, but I'm just going to say it out loud here. One will be on the series on AI upskilling. The second one would be on the startup journey. The third one would be on building software the right way, and then we will have one on the Apple ecosystem because Apple has come up with the version 26 for all its software products. So we'll pick it up from July onwards. That's all I have. Hope this video helped you. That's all from me. Thank you. This is Menon Thoughts signing off. Until we connect again, keep learning, keep caring.